Welcome to the Jeanne Oliver Podcast, where we talk all things business, art, and lifestyle. This is your podcast for building a more creative life. Creativity is calling. Become the artist you have dreamed to be. After the podcast, meet me over at jeanneoliver.com, where you will find art, business, and lifestyle online courses. We have over 150 courses from teachers around the world. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jeanne Oliver, and today I'm talking with artist, author, boutique hotel owner, if you're counting, and creator of magical gatherings, Betty Soldi. Betty, welcome to the podcast.
Buongiorno, buonasera, whatever it is.
So happy you're here.
Grazie. For me too. What an honor.
Well, before we dive in, will you just share a little bit about yourself?
Well, what I love most about what you just said about me was there was no mention of calligraphy, which I think is optimal. And I think it's an indication of my Renaissance spirit, which is that when we are creative beings, we are multifaceted and creative in so many things. And it is only really society that wants to categorize us and limit us, because that way we get understood, or people think they understand us better, when really the whole point of being creative is to keep unraveling and finding and pushing and being curious and expressing ourselves in so many ways. So I like to think of myself as a creative thinker, because I love the reasoning part of being an artist, and give things meaning or find their meanings and then come at things from a different perspective. And so with the calligraphy part, I guess I can now honestly own up to being a calligraphy artist, because I'm moving onwards from how calligraphy is usually seen and boxed in, actually. So I like to capture words and ideas and flourishes and bring them to life. I guess that's what I like to do.
And I think if I would have said a calligraphy artist, it really would have felt like I was boxing you in, and nobody, if they're listening to this for the first time and they have not seen your work or see how you use calligraphy to create events and how you write on walls and windows and mirrors, and calligraphy would seem like one little area and they would miss the whole breathing, living thing that you do.
Absolutely. And so I've started taking that word out of whenever I meet people, because it goes beyond, but it's difficult to describe what it is, because we use words all the time and we can all write. So am I a handwriting? Someone once told me, you're a word whisperer, because I love playing with them as we speak them, as we write them, as we scribble them, as they want to appear. I always say I'm here not to be, but to make sure that I make the invisible visible. You know, our thoughts and ideas and words that we speak, they're all in the air. And I feel like I have a butterfly net for words, and I catch them and capture them. And then they continue to fly on not even just a page, wherever they want to land.
No, I love that. And I love that when I've watched you create, and when you're doing your art, that you will be speaking to someone, and then those words are appearing on paper as you are speaking them in just a very flow state, and it's very beautiful.
Well, sorry if I interrupt you, but it's just the initial meaning of the abracadabra word, which was I create as I speak. So this idea that it's, the magician has the magic wand. We have magic wands in our hands. And this is all I do is I bring it back to the self. And that's all creativity really can be. It's that we're disconnected from it all, as you well know. I'm sure you see it in everywhere when they look at you wide-eyed and you're like, I'm just doing this.
Yeah. Oh. Well, you were born in Florence, and your family has been creating fireworks by hand since 1869. Looking at your current work, I think it is splendidly obvious that grand explosions and glittering lights across the night sky were a part of your childhood. I would love to hear from you, though, how growing up in your family impacted your creativity.
So I always bring it back now to the fact that for me, it was all written in the stars. literally. So this is our fate and our destiny if we take the time to stargaze and then navel gaze as well. It has to go inside and outside. And for it to be written in the stars, the fact that I grew up in a patriarchal family that has always made fireworks by hand. They started by illuminating buildings with slow burning powders. So the idea of illuminating something, and the history of gunpowder, and we say in Italian from Marte to arte, so from the Mars, the god of war, to the art of. So something that was weapons and negative, it's just if you can turn it around and change it into something positive. So I have an incredibly positive outlook in everything. I think that's probably the twist. And growing up, I helped my grandmother scrunch up little tiny pieces. I would get newspapers and tear them and scrunch them up into tiny little balls to stuff the fireworks to make the explosion. And so I always had ink on my fingers, even when I was 4 or 5. And I love the notion that it takes, expertise and experience and knowledge and know-how, and we call them mani sapienti, knowing hands, to make fireworks. So it's alchemy. You put together all the sort of silver powders and you know what you're doing. And my grandfather, I still have some of his recipes for the stars. Ricette per le stelle. So grams of where you would normally have cinnamon powder, he has silver powders, or how you weigh and put together something for a starburst. And these get packaged into the firework itself. But in order for that firework to fulfill its destiny, it needs to be lit. It needs to have the creative spark. And then it does its destiny, which is wonder making and collision and the gasps of wonder that it ignites. And I guess that's still what I feel when I do things, when I sometimes fearlessly just throw myself into writing on a huge window or a mirror. People kind of are taken aback. And this is something that we all have capability of. The wonder making and the gasping, both. It's the giving, receiving. Mm-hmm.
I feel that wonder when you speak. When you talk about things that you're excited about and the things that you're passionate about, your words bring feeling to other people, and so I love that. Not only do you create for yourself, you create for brands, you create for the hotels, but you also invite people into your space, and you invite them to create also, and to be able to do that and make people feel something is a beautiful part of your gifting too.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. Sometimes I think it would be easier for me to just stay in my beautiful studio and I can just do all the whooshiness, which of course isn't, all is emailing as well and the admin. But a lot of it is, okay, let me create something here. But I feel when you are gifted, there is a responsibility to share it, because if it moves me, it will move someone else. And it is a divine thing. I definitely feel that something flows through me well, I'm sure you feel the same. And why keep that to ourselves when, it's to be enigmatic and to be creative has ripple effects. People painted things so that we could look at them and feel. So it's all about the feeling. Yes.
Well, we started in Florence, and then when you were young, your family moved to London. How did that impact your style and creativity?
Well, clearly I have an English accent, and we're back to it's all written in the stars. For me, it was Nomen Omen. So I was baptized Betty with a Y. My mother sort of arm wrestled the priest who wanted to call me Saint Elizabeth. Surely you wanted Elisabetta. My mother's like, no, 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 I want this very English name. We never knew we were going to eventually end up in England. So clearly that was part of my fate. I love that growing up there, I was 7 when we moved and I was there for 35 years. I loved this double life that I got to live, which was parmigiano and pasta and homemaking in a famiglia italiana, and then going to my friend Lottie's for afternoon tea with her cat, which, is so English. And I think that opens up duality in us sometimes when you have other languages. And I learned a language, so I had to look at the words. And I clearly remember my teacher on the blackboard, she was left-handed, just writing very pointedly on this black background. And the words looked like fireworks for me. It was like white chalk writing on a black. And it was, and that pointedness really, I still remember that. There are certain elements of it. And so I guess getting to open up your mind if you live elsewhere or learn another language, that's probably the greatest impact I've had.
So then what brought you back to Florence?
So 15 years ago, I came back to have my daughter. My partner and I met when I came briefly when I was 18 back to Florence to study. And so it's a it's a long love story. And I moved back here and I never thought I would. I love urban cities. I love London. I've lived in New York and I've lived in Paris. And then coming back to Florence, I'm like, it's so small, it's provincial. And then I looked at it and I said, wait, it's small and it's provincial. Wait, where are the opportunities? So I had my daughter Alma, which means soul in Latin. And yeah, a whole new way of being took over.
Mm. Were you a graphic designer or a calligrapher first? And did you explore other mediums or were you always in love with ink?
So I never did art at school.
Really?
And I cannot draw. So I draw with letters and I can trace really well, but I can't draw freehand at all. I was never taught. And at when I was 18 and I came back here to Florence from London, I looked for a history of art course that also had some design in it. And so I started that. And most people were already shading and life drawing. And I'm like, I've never done this. And it wasn't that time. Like nowadays, if you do a scribble, it's like, yeah, that's cool. That means something. There is like, no, you're incapable. What's going on here? There you had to know how to draw, okay, especially in a city like Florence. And so I sort of made it up and started doing calligrams, which are illustrations with words. I started writing words. I've always loved handwriting. And I was told, yeah, that's fine. That's your thing. And I was like, phew. So out of a presumed weakness, I made it a strength. And that's what I did. And then I looked for typography courses in London. I've got a Bachelor of Arts in Visual Communication. And I went for modernism. I went for a Bauhaus inspired course, which I loved because in order for something to be modern, you need to know where it's come from in its past. So this idea of very much reverential to hand-drawn typography and fonts, and there was drawing there, and then this incredible orange flamed haired calligraphy teacher that taught us traditions, which to me was so mathematical, not my thing. But once she saw that I had it and I loved it and that I wanted, she could just see something in me. I learned what you were supposed to, and then she whispered, now do you.
Yeah.
So then I took my style and off I went.
Oh, all right. A few years ago, you shared a video on Easter, and it means the explosion of the cart. And I'm going to let you pronounce it correctly.
Lo
So,
scoppio del carro. Okay.
see, I would have kind of said it like that without the beautiful rolling of the R's. Yes, yes. So, for everyone listening, I will try to describe this absolutely beautiful tradition. And Betty, it is on my list to see this in person. I have to. So, it begins at the Duomo's altar with a dove-shaped rocket. Is that correct?
So it actually begins that this cart, which is really, really huge and tall, has its own little parking space, which used to be an old street, and it's from the 1400s. And I've been inside it. It has graffiti from the 1400s, an incredible. I mean, the inside is as beautiful as the outside. Of course, it's a pagan ritual originally, and then it was appropriated to Catholicism. And so the only way for this cart, which gets laden with lots and lots of fireworks and amazing kind of smokes by my family, they've been doing it for the last, I think, 35 years, but it's been going on for so long. The only way this cart can reach the Duomo through the winding streets of Florence is that it's pulled by white oxen. And I love this pagan element of it is that they have their hooves painted gold to bring them back down to the earth. And they have their horns sort of entwined with flowers. So again, it's up to the divinity. So the idea is that they get to, throw this incredible cart. And yes, it is stationed in front of the Duomo, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
wire that links it to whether the priest lights it at the end of mass. And this incredible kind of fuse gets, lit, and it whooshes. I have it here, just, a little show and tell.
Oh,
This is
oh,
my cousins make them every year. So this one's from an old one. It's 2007. You can still see this is the fireworks that was there. So this is where it goes through the wire,
I
and
will
then the
include a video in the notes of this because you have to see this, guys, because you see this bird, it's lit inside the church. It shoots out, it follows a wire to this
indeed
cart outside of the Duomo. And then the cart, it just, all of these
starts.
fireworks. Oh, and that was
And
my question for you. Whether your family created these fireworks, and you have said yes, they do, and then your cousins create the bird, and that how could you not come back to Florence too? Um, that feels so that's rooted.
yeah, it's
Uh,
visceral. It's visceral. I agree. I remember being young, a teenager, and coming back. Nowadays, a lot of things are cordoned off, and there's a lot. But before, it used to be like, "Hi, I'm a Soldi." Oh, of course, sure. Go meet your family. So I would stand with my cousins right underneath it, kind of going, "Oh, that's amazing." And so there, this, and to feel that in a
mm,
town, city, wherever it is, And I
mhm.
remember I used to go to lots of wherever they are, sit in the back of the lorry with them, having a slosh of vino and a panino, waiting. It's a waiting game. It's hard work, it's dangerous, and then you have to wait for the 11th hour or midnight for everything to kick off.
Really beautiful. So there are few places in the world that I love as much as Florence. So
Oh,
to me, it's a walking art museum with beautiful surprises around every corner. The city just drips with art and history and the invitation to be present, stone benches that beg you to rest and notice what is around you, and the walkability. I love the walkability of Florence that guarantees that you notice more. And before I ask you what you love most about the city, even our daughter Madeline was married this past
oh,
summer in Bellagio along Lake Como. And one
oh.
of the things they did was they started in Venice and then they came to Florence and then they went on to Puglia. But they stayed at one of your hotels too, which was very sweet.
Oh.
But even Logan, my new son-in-law, he said he was walking around. Maddie was doing something, and he walked around and he said, "I just wrote poetry." He goes, "I don't remember the last time that I just wrote." Like, I mean, he's writes songs, but he said, "I just was inspired to write." Because of the walkability, because of the slowness of going from one place to the next and not getting into a car. And I wanted to share that with you because he now is like, I love Florence and I can't wait to be back there with them when it's not their honeymoon, and show them some of the things I love. But
You
what
love
do
it.
you love about Florence?
Well, you mentioned at one point that for you, it's an invitation to be present when you're here. And I agree. I think it's the one thing that I always say to people is when you're seeing the art and you're looking at the creativity, understand that you're just actually nurturing how to see it. Actually, it's not what you look at, it's what you see. So the idea that, to look up, because underneath some of the roofs during the Renaissance, they put shells or they put it gets you to notice. That's creativity, is if we can nature sensibility to see and to capture. And sometimes you don't need to know the backstory or the meaning or know everything about that painting. It's, can you sit with it and just be enraptured or be just transported, or what it is that you see with it. So of course I love the amazing amount of art. It's incredible, especially when you've only maybe ever studied a painting or something in a book, and then you see it in real life. You,
Mhm.
you think, oh my goodness, it's tiny, or oh my goodness, it's gigantic.
Right.
The idea of the proximity to it, so the reality of it. But I love also that as I'm walking around, I hear Betty from the greengrocer. The asparagus has arrived. The seasonality of things,
Mhm.
the walkability means it's a human aspect of. I haven't seen this for a while. I haven't. There's conversations constantly, and again, it's you're seen, and you're trying to just keep aware of just human level of interconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that I almost every day, I live in the Oltrarno, which is the southern side of Florence, where the artisans and craftsmen were and still are. And so I get to cross, one of the bridges most days. And every time, every day, I'm like, what's the sky like today? What's the
Yeah.
river doing? Are there reflections? And so it's just this idea that you are walking in, like you say, an art, living art museum
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. Yeah. I love watching you write. So, when did the flourishes begin in your work? Because, it looks like the flourishes and the splotches and the stars are as natural as your writing.
Ah, yes. I've been trying to think about this one. I mean, my writing has always been changing because I love to notice and see things. So as I walk around or as I travel, oh my goodness, look at that G. They do it like this here, or
Mm-hmm.
that type, or this, whatever. It's the noticing it, and then you appropriate it. You
Mm-hmm.
think it's passive, but it's not. We absorb things, and then, especially creatively, it comes out. So I would swoosh a little bit more, see something, do that, and it keeps changing all the time. I've never swooshed and flourished as much as I do now. I recently discovered, when the Romans set up camp here in 59 BC, they're like, we're going to call this place Florencia, which means destined to flourish because this place rocks. And I think the whole idea of flourishing is nature and our own human nature that needs nurturing from the inside and keep going and keep going. And so it has tendrils and kind of and this idea of imperfection, not perfection, just letting it be. So I adding the splashes sometimes to show that it's not precious, that and what we call mistakes in life are opportunities.
Mm.
So scribble that out, do it again. And I had to go through that in order to get to something else.
Yeah.
So and for me now it's uncontainable. I feel like I need to go bigger and wider and beyond.
Well, and even I saw one of the events that you had put together, and even saying that it was not what people were expecting, and and I mean the glass walls were like sketched on at with your words and with with the stars and with the flourishes and everything around them. I mean, people came into that space immersed, and they probably just thought they were going to come and look down at a table, and
Yep.
instead
Yep.
the beauty surrounded them. I think it's one of the things, one of many, that you are very, very good at, is bringing people into a whole experience.
That's really interesting because I was recently asked to do something, writing on mirrors for a
Hmm.
big special wedding that happened this year. And as I was writing this old palazzo in Venice, as I was writing, like the florist, the big burly Venetian florist came and said, "What is happening?" And the man that was draping some textiles in Venetian came, "What kind of hand do you have? How is this
Yeah.
possible?" And I do it. And then as I finish it, when it's finished, people walk past because they thought, "Oh, it must be printed."
Mm.
This idea of the handmade, something just appearing out of us, I think, is what I love to show people. And if it can come from me, of course, it can come from you in your way.
I think it's also a really good reminder how many of the things that are truly, truly beautiful that we see all the time, they are fleeting. So the man that was draping everything
Mm,
beautiful, it was gone at the end of the wedding. The
yeah,
florist and the flowers and the arrangements at the end, it was
yeah.
all taken apart and it was gone. Your beautiful handwriting on the mirror, it got wiped off. And I
Mm,
think there's things around there that I want us to, like, I hope that I have my eyes always open to acknowledge to that artist. I see so beautifully what you made, and it's all going to go away, and you choose to do it again and
mhm.
again and again, knowing that it isn't in a museum that people look at thousands and thousands of time, or it's not in a book, words that are written that people can pick up off their shelf. I
Yeah.
There's something even more beautiful about the people that decide to make beauty every single day, and it disappears at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, like with me, with traditional calligraphy, it's about control and about then getting to the point where you're so good at it that you
Hmm.
know what's coming. And for
Hmm.
me, that has no joy for me.
Hmm.
I'm in awe of it. I can't do it. But what I love is to be curious. And as you say, come back tomorrow and do it in
Yeah.
a different way. It cannot be the
Hmm.
same. I don't feel the same. The moon is full. I'm hungry. The human aspect of it is not let me be exactly the same. It cannot be and it shouldn't be. And that is the big deal with the AI and the
Hmm.
computers and all the rest of it. There it's all as well as that. There needs still to still be that I want to be surprised by
Right,
myself.
right, right. And it goes back to even the fireworks that it is created, it is enjoyed, it creates awe, gasping, beauty in the night sky, and then you're left with smoke and
And if
it's over.
you were walking past at the right time in the right place, you got to see it. So
Right.
it's unrepeatable, really.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Love that too.
When people hear that I'm an artist, that response is often followed by somebody saying, I can't even draw a stick figure. When people hear that you are a calligrapher, do people speak negatively about their own handwriting? So that's my first question. And then my
Yeah.
second would be because I'm guaranteeing they do, because I hear it so
All
often
the time.
that I'm assuming people are like, oh, I hate my handwriting or whatever. So, what advice do you have for people that would like to develop their own handwriting into a style that they do enjoy, that they do love?
So yes, I get that all the time. It's like, oh, just so you know, and in Italian you say, I'm like, I metto le mani avanti. I'm just going to put my hands up and tell you. And I'm like, that's where the magic is, by the way. You're saying no to it, and actually, you've got it. Um, I look at them and I say, I haven't, why should I judge? What is there? You're not me. I know how I
Mhm.
am. And yes, there is talent and that is nurtured and capability, but also it's the intention. It's what you do with it. This is what we're talking about right now. There are many calligraphers that are better than me, as in more skilled, but that's their thing. That's something that they want to achieve. For me, I'm like, well, what are you looking to do with your handwriting? Surely, just write as you normally do, but write really big, write standing up. How does that feel? I'm all about how it feels to write rather than what does it look like. The what does it look like comes later because it takes practice, but also look at the space that you're entering. It's not just the line, it's where do you put it somewhere. It's as important as the line. So there's lots of amazing considerations, but just try it. But everyone when they say hands up, I'm not very good. It's fear driven. It's judgment driven, right? When really it's I'm
Mhm.
gonna see what happens.
Mhm.
That isn't that art. Isn't everything that you always say to people? It's just
Yeah.
let's make a mark.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that it appears is magic,
Yeah.
and we're already tearing it down.
Yeah. Your book, Inspired, has been translated into 8 languages, I believe.
Yeah.
What was your heart for the book in the beginning, and what has it become, or um, what impact that it has surprised you? So, what was the heart behind it in the beginning, and what are you seeing now?
So I was running a series of workshops in Milan. And there was so much request that people just kept coming. And I was a full day. I was meant to do two, and I did like six, one after the other. People just came, and I was showing them, how to express themselves. And I got back into the taxi on the way back to the station to come back, and I thought, "Whew, I need to do something about this. How do I reach more people? Because I'm going to be exhausted if I do
Hmm.
this. And maybe I should write a book. That would be a way." And within a month, I received an email from the universe, but from the publisher saying, "Would you like to write a book about calligraphy?" And I just met with them in London and said yes, but it's not a how-to and it's not a manual. It's this is how I like to do it, and maybe this resonates for you for your own experience. So that's how Inspired came to be, because um, so many of the aspects of how I wrote it, I designed it, I put it together, um, still work for me, because it then turned into, at the beginning, it turned into, let me bring to life the book and I'll do more workshops like it. And very quickly, this notion of, oh, just so you know, I'm not very good, I've never done this before. And I thought, I'm not interested in getting people to write a great alphabety, which is in there,
Hmm.
ABC. I'm interested in, why are people scared of releasing their creativity or seeing what might appear? Why are we fearful of other sides of ourselves, especially in the realm of creativity? And so this incredibly inspired has become my experiences that I
Mm.
lead, which I didn't want to call workshops or calligraphy workshops. They are experiences because they are inside of you with ink. They get you to think about things. And I weave in Renaissance humanist thinking, which is all about we are duty bound to express ourselves.
Mm.
That's it. You are meant to be doing this, however it wants to appear. So there are no objectives. It's not linear thinking. It is whatever wishiness there is, to the point that when I was doing some of these experiences, at one point, someone was like, but if I buy a pen like yours, can I write like you? And I looked at them and I just grabbed a flower and said, dipped it into the ink and said, it's not the pen. It's the poetry of thinking. It's the, let's see, this flower is never written. How does it want to be? So I think this whole idea for me to go through a book and go through ourselves is what does it feel like and what does it come out on the other side? Who am I and how does it continue to transform?
So wise. Your art studio is a 19th century lemon house in a secret garden built in 1801. It is where they used to shelter the lemon trees during the cold months. You are also surrounded by some of the most beautiful gardens in Florence. So please tell me what must be an incredible story, how you're able to get this space for your atelier and your like creative space for gatherings.
My former design studio was a beautiful one. It had an altar and it had vaulted ceilings. It was behind a store that we once owned, but it looked out onto a courtyard, and courtyards are in shade, in shadow all the time. So I was missing light. And so when I was due to move, I sort of uttered the words, I need a new space and I need it to be light filled all the time. And a limonaya, this is from 1801, so late 1700s. It's long and narrow because it faces the sun from morning till evening. It's to keep the lemon trees, that were very precious, warm and cozy all day and winter long. And so I think I uttered this notion of I need light all the time.
Mm.
And there's a real again, one of the Renaissance principles is as above, so below, and as within, so without. So in the summer, when I fling open, there are these big door windows. I let the lizards come in and the butterflies come in, and I sit with these are Medici walls behind me, and they're full of my past, and they are there for reference, and I have that. This is where I've come from, but I look in front and I see the gardens and I see what happens, and if there's a leaf, and if there's sometimes it blows leaves and it sounds like the sea if you close your eyes, and it's just being at one with. It's this idea of human nature within nature. So that's how I got it, just calling it in.
I love that you are sitting in front of some of your collections because you are definitely a collector and a gatherer, and that shows up in your words, your flourishes, your ink splotches, and your excitement in creating experiences. How do your collections inspire your events, your hotel designs, and your branding?
That's a good question. So I'm a collector of emotions mostly. I imbue everything with an emotional aspect. I'm a Cancerian, so I'm a very, everything has a meaning. A little tiny scribble from someone has great meaning to me. So I've always collected, and I feel the need now to lighten for sure. And I think that's because when you're an artist, if you have lots of things, apart from my being a co-owner of my hotels and being a designer and a calligrapher, my partner has a restaurant here in Florence called Regina Mistecca, and it is full of lots of paintings on the walls. And then there's one area that is missing. It has the light on top of it, and it's missing a painting. And I'm always saying to him, I think you need to fill that space. And he looks at me and goes, no, when you are a collector, especially of art, you need to leave space for the next thing you're going to fall in love with. So I think this idea that everything is very crammed for me is, so what I'm loving doing is, how about we collect words? So let's open up big pages. Let's change perspective on things. And the hotels are filled with a lot of ephemera because they are they prod your nostalgia, they inspire. One of our hotels has the bar area that is full of menus and places that we've been to over the past, and a lot of them aren't there anymore. Exactly as you're saying, some of it
Mhm.
disappears. And so they're just memories. So I don't need to go to IKEA or Crate and Barrel to be told what to put on my wall.
That's right.
Exactly as you've got your incredible finds, how do we make it personal? And so it
Mhm.
feels like this is an extension of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Your books and experiencers, your book and your experiences are so inspiring for others, and you truly pour yourself out into everything you do. You help people see themselves and their creativity differently, and you invite them again and again into what could this be. Let's go on a walk together with this idea and see where it takes us. So
Yeah.
when you want to be inspired, what do you do or where do you go?
So I often say that if you leave me to swing on a hammock by the beach, I'm a happy bunny, because when you're a creative person, there is so much imagination happening all the time. So you're looking and you're taking inspiration from. And so for me, it's not doing any of that and letting it settle and sometimes emptying out.
Mhm.
That's what I was saying about the space, but also daydreaming or dreaming and just going into my imagination. That's what I love to do. I don't, I love researching projects, and I look at things, and I do intellectual stimulation for inspiration for a project. But to be truly inspired, you actually need to recharge batteries as well. So, I mean, I'm an urban person. I love going to, if you take me to a country walk, I'll be bored after 10 minutes. I'm like, really? We're still trudging along. Take me to a city and I can walk for days
Mhm.
because I love to see and take it on. But really, that's all amazing things that are firing all the time. But sometimes to be inspired is actually just an exhale rather
Yeah.
than inhaling more things with our eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are my last podcast that I'm recording for this year, and you will be the first episode next year in the next season of our podcast. And I'm very honored to talk with you as the year is closing. And I know this conversation will inspire so many in the new year. And as we head into 2026, what is something that you know it is time to put down?
Mm.
And what is something that you want to pick up in your life for creativity?
So this very time last year, I sat down and I made a wish. I said, "What do I wish for my creativity to be for next year?" And I wrote. I just waited, and something came, and I wrote very big on a piece of paper the big, beautiful, flourishy word, exaggerate. I
Mm.
thought, I want to exaggerate. I want to stand on tables. I don't just want to sit at a table. I want to be on top of a table. I want to go big. And this year has been incredible for me. It has been an exaggeration. I have stood on a table during a shoot when I was sitting, primly. The photographer at one point said, "Did you want something else? I've got what I needed." And I was like, "Can I just stand on here?" And I had Nikes with sort of wings on them, and she's like, "Sure." And I just laughed uproariously that there was I looking from above. We are in ascension
Mhm.
with the divine when this creativity. And then my experiences went from what I thought was a lot, 20 people, 60 people, amazing. This year I've been to America and I've done them in front of 250 entrepreneurial women. And I came back and I was actually with 700 people in a conference center. And the joy that that brings me, because I can hear pencils swooshing and people sighing with relief and the belief that they're connecting back to themselves. So my art and my, creativity is one thing. And as you say, it's about inspiring each other, because whenever I do an experience and I suggest, I guide, I say, shall we do this? And then everyone comes up with something different, is it's such an exchange.
Yeah.
So for me, I want to put down the exaggeration a little bit because it was a lot. I love that I've been able to do that. And for me, for the next year, this one coming, is I would like to create space. So the homebody in me wants to come back, because I give my work life a lot of love. But when you're a creative, there is no distinction between work and home. And so I want to sort of create space for calm as well. There's a lot of effervescence and sparkles in my life, and I'd like to see what it feels like to be calmer and just slow down a little bit, because that's the new finding peacefulness within
Yeah.
us, and then again having that to share. I think that's where I'm at. Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. I
Oh.
would love to close with one last question. When was the last time you created something that made you just really excited because you knew you had had a personal breakthrough for yourself and you could see that either something in life or your creativity was going to go in a new direction because of
Okay.
something that you just did? Can
I'd
you
love to
think?
ask you, because you're so prolific in everything you do. And I know, but that's what we are. One thing feeds into another, and it's never enough, right? I always think it's a tap that with stars that flow out of it. It's not water. So I don't know if I'd love to hear yours too. For
Yeah.
mine, very excitingly, I just keep creating. It's bringing objects to life. It's bringing writing to life and giving them other substrates and other ways of being. So objects and packaging, and then I started going on to canvases. So for me, this idea of, which is why the calligraphic artist started coming in. And I'm blending being a designer. And so I've had some canvases printed with some backgrounds. And then I thought they were going, here you are, you have a canvas. What are you going to do? And I thought it was going to be one way, and it came out completely different. I thought I was going to go for my darks, my blues, my blacks, my black ink, my stars, and I was painting flowers and pink, and fluorescent pinks. I was reaching for the throwing ink at it. I took some of the canvases out into the garden, and I grabbed a flower and I started splodging on it, and it was just like, oh, again, it's this expansion. It's this allowing it to be. I think it's and that for me, and I've been scared to do it ever since. I've come back to my intellectuals, because it is
Mhm.
this incredible wowness that you think, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. This is too amazing.
Mm.
But of course we
Well,
should.
yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, I would say it's how I'm interpreting what I see. So
Mm,
instead of just painting and sketching what I see, it is simplifying it and finding the lines and the shapes in a new way. And that has birthed like sculptures and things that nobody would know that sculpture was a dock along Lake Como, or no one would know that that was the mountains and the water. And so it felt like a huge growing up in my
mm,
artistic journey to take something and then almost like mush it around and make something completely different from it that I know authentically where it came from and the processes I went to get this other thing at the end that I'm really proud of.
wow.
And so for me, I would say that was like a huge thing for me even this year. And to say it felt like a growing up, it felt really like stepping up as an artist in a new way that felt really good for me personally.
Wow. What I love about that is, when I do it, is I'm sometimes asked, can you write this for me? And I look at them and I say, give me something else. Oh, but it's my name. Well, you know your name. Give me something else. And for me, it's that I want to turn it back to other people, for them to have an inquiry to inside of themselves. And then they come
Mhm.
back and say, okay, it's this. So it's, for me, that's where, for me, the growth has, before I used to say, of course, here you go,
Yeah.
here you go. And now it's like, wait a minute. No, it's not. I'm not it's not here
Yeah.
servile way. And creativity
Well, you
is,
actually made them dig deeper. And so
yeah.
then you gave them a true gift.
Truly, exactly. It's and that's where I'm interested, even in with the canvases to go forwards, is, oh, shall we have this conversation with those words? Oh, they want to appear on that canvas. And so
Hmm.
you're capturing things that are with full circle, things that are
Yeah.
in the air that want to be made visible.
Mm-hmm.
And then here you are, this is your art. We've made it together because
Mm-hmm.
it came from you on your thoughts and your words, and they've appeared like this, and I'm just a conduit.
Well, would you please share with our listeners where they can find you, where they're going to find what hotels you have, your book, and everything? What is the best place? And we'll also include all of that in the
Mhm.
notes below.
Okay. Gosh, hopefully I'll be on a beach somewhere. You can come and join me there. Drink in hand. Let's go and have a conversation somewhere. We can write in the sand. How about
That's
that?
right.
So clearly I'm in Florence for a lot of the time. I love traveling internationally, so hopefully there'll be an exchange there. So I have a very outdated website, which is bettysoldi.com, but people come back and say, this is great. I'm like, great, wherever, when my daughter was born, and sometimes you make what you think is a mistake with a baby, and my mother would say, but the baby doesn't know it's supposed to be any other way. So in some ways, if you come to my website and you're like, oh, this looks great, and there's me going, it should be this and it should be that and it should be updated and conveying all sorts of things. But I guess my best way of seeing where I'm at is through Instagram, which is at Betty Soldi Studio. And that just shows a little tiny bit of what I'm up to all the time. And then
You do a great job, because if I know you guys are gonna just love, I know you're loving this conversation, and you're gonna want to follow her, because you're going to see the Easter bird flying through, the Duomo, and Betty will take you across the bridge, and you'll see little glimpses of kind of her day-to-day life, and it's a beautiful glimpse into your creative life. And I cannot wait to be in Florence again this year, and
we meet.
and to be able to see you, yes, in person. And so thank you so much for taking time today to talk, and just, I feel like there was so much. I'm glad I can go back and rewatch this and take notes, because there was so much wisdom here, and just so many things like, that's true. That's so, so true. And so thank you for just sharing like naturally who you are.
What a joy. I think conversations like this, I listen to them too. So it's interesting just to see where people are coming from. For me, the older I get, the more, as you say, the more I shed, and the more the humility and just, having eyes open to receiving as well as giving is the best way to be. Grazie so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I created a free resource and mini workbook just for you. 10 tips to take back the peace for a more beautiful life. A free ebook if you're looking for some rest in your day-to-day like I was. Go to jeanneoliver.com/10 tips to get your free resource. Creativity is calling. Become the artist you have dreamed to be. After the podcast, meet me over at jeanneoliver.com, where you will find art, business, and lifestyle online courses. We have over 150 courses from teachers around the world.